So here a while back, we had some birds of prey show up where I work. And every time I would go out to a particular area, they would circle around me, chirping and carrying on. So I knew there was a nest somewhere. I just couldn't figure out exactly where it was. I thought it was across the river up in some trees, but never could locate it. Well, then one day, a fellow workmate told me that they were in a particular structure at work. And so I went out there and checked, and this is what I found. When I looked down into the area that he was supposed to be in, I didn't see anything. And I was eating M&Ms, and I accidentally dropped one. And he poked his head out. I wasn't expecting him to be up under that lip, but there he was. Or I guess I should say she. Not sure of the gender. But then I quickly saw a baby pop out there. So I knew that he or she had babies. So since it was evening, I went ahead and left him alone and went on about my business. It turned out these are peregrine falcons, and peregrine falcons are bird eaters. So I got to watch them catch birds and bring in birds for, feed the chicks. There you can see that's a bird carcass she just brought in. So they would take the carcass back there and go ahead and feed the chicks. And after they were done with it, they would bring it back out and they would fly down with it, you'll see here, and dispose of it down below. So watch how she comes down here with it. She got it in her mouth, and then right here at the bottom, she lets go of it with her mouth and goes on, proceeds to drop it outside the frame. Now, a peregrine falcon is not dumb by any stretch of the imagination. She knew I was there every single time. She knew exactly where I was. She was always looking. I just had this little hole that I could look down through, and I tried to conceal myself as best possible to not disturb, but she always knew. And peregrine falcon is the fastest creature on the planet. They can dive so fast it's ridiculous. A peregrine falcon is a really good parent. All day long, they would stop in, check on the nest, make sure the babies were doing fine. You wouldn't want a predator sneaking in while they were away. A snake or something like that could come in and be very detrimental. So all day long, she'd come in, walk in, survey the chicks, make sure there wasn't nothing around that could harm them, and then she would head back out. Alright guys, this is where things get a little graphic, so if you don't want to watch them eating birds, you might want to look away. This is nature, but it's a little graphic. The prey is killed outside the nest and then brought in. This bird is already dead. And a peregrine falcon is a very proficient hunter. You should see them swipe a bird out of the sky. They just come in out of nowhere. The bird never really sees it coming. Or if it does see it coming, it doesn't stand much of a chance. Very swift and very fast. The mother likes to give a little bit too big of chunks, I think. The little one there is struggling a bit. The other one tries to help him out, but eventually he manages to get that piece down. Fascinating to watch. So to get these shots, I had to use my GoPro and stick it down on the end of a long rod down to where it could look into the nest. Found out real quick that these birds can really poop. They like to projectile it. My GoPro was absolutely covered in poo most of the time. A lot of times the mother would see the poop run down and out of instinct think that it was something like a mouse or something that was trying to get into the nest, and she would attack it, only to find that there was nothing to worry about. Now here's an example of one parent bringing a meal in, and the other parent going over and receiving it. You can hear the exchange there between the two parents. Then she brings it on over and starts feeding the babies. So as part of my work schedule, I had a long stretch of time off, and I had to go ahead and leave the birds for a while. And whenever I came back, they had started to really put on some size. I stuck my GoPro down in here, and of course I can't see what's being recorded until, after the fact. I retrieved my GoPro and look at the footage. Shoved it down in here with the birds, and I was trying to get the right angle, make sure that I was viewing the nest properly. I didn't realize till later that the chick was old enough at this point to really be bothered by the GoPro. Up until now, they hadn't paid any attention really. The mother had, but the chicks, they didn't care. But upon seeing that the chicks really didn't care for it being down in there and how bothered by it they were, I decided it was time to stay out of the nest and use a different angle. So from now on, after this series of shots here, I removed the GoPro and started shooting top down or from out in front of the hole, and that way it would relieve a lot of stress off of the birds. They started to grow exponentially, and we were getting into the hotter days of the year, so you would see them laying around a lot and trying to stay cool. But they started getting more and more active. They'd come out and jump around and play, even explore the edge of their nesting area, I guess. And they would stretch and flap their wings, just try to kind of learn, how to move as a bird, I guess. Now, the parents would still come in periodically and keep an eye on things, even though they were grown and whatnot, or starting to become grown. But this is a really nice shot that I got off the GoPro footage. But anyway, a lot of times they would bring the birds or the prey to the hole there, and the chicks would run out to meet them. So most times that the parents would come check on them, the chicks would come running. And here's one of them bringing some food, and one of the chicks comes out, grabs it, and takes it back in the hole. One of the chicks was absolutely more dominant than the other, and was bigger than the other. And at first the chicks would equally fight over a meal, and but then as time went on, you started to see that the larger bird would take dominance and would, like right here, you see the larger bird jumping in. The larger bird started taking dominance and would take the meal and go back there and eat as much as it wanted to. And then the smaller bird would finish up after that. But they both grew equally and did just fine. One thing you may not know about falcons or hawks or any kind of bird of prey, a lot of times whenever they come out of the nest, they kind of chase the parents around trying to get food. And you can kind of see that here whenever the parents bring in food, how aggressive they come and take it from them. And so, that's kind of the process of the parents teaching them how to hunt. But after a little while, it gets old having your babies rip every morsel of food out of your mouth. And the babies kind of become a bully, just stealing all the parents' food. So at some point, the parents finally kind of go, well, that's enough of that, and you're on your own. And the parents head off and leave the babies unattended at that point. I guess you could call it weaning, but a lot of the babies kind of starve because they don't really learn how to hunt. And that's just a sad fact of nature. It amazes me how everything in this world has a balance. Spiders eat bugs. If there weren't any spiders, there would be an overabundance of insects. Same thing with everything. Anything left unchecked will overrun. And nature just takes care of everything. Here we have predators that eat birds. We also, around this area, have predators like hawks that eat mice or small mammals. We have osprey that will eat fish. So everything has a check and a balance. And these peregrine falcons are no different. They're part of the system, and they do their job. So at this point, the chicks were starting to really put on some adult collars, and they were almost ready to leave the nest. And I got a few shots here of them pretty much all feathered out, looking pretty good. One of the birds left the nest early and did fine. The other bird ended up kind of dropping down from his nesting hole and landed on this small little ledge. And at first, I was worried because there's water underneath of them. And but he did just fine sitting right there. He sat there probably for 3 days. And the parents kept bringing him food, and he just sat right there and ate. Did just fine. I was a little bit worried that whenever he finally tried to fly, he would fall into the water. But next thing I knew, I caught a glimpse of him flying around. And there he was. He did just fine. And that's pretty much the end of it. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you like this kind of stuff, like and subscribe. I've got much more coming down the pipe.